Okay, so Natalie, Hilary, here we are, finally. We've been talking for ages about having a podcast on coaching, just to have a discussion about everything that we believe and support in terms of a coaching approach in the workplace. And we're here, we've made it, so it's fantastic. So we're all part of the Academy. We're all involved in the delivery of our professional education programs. We're all accredited coaches, so I think there's quite a lot that hopefully we can draw on during this session. But just to begin with, shall we introduce ourselves? Just one line, really, what we do, and that would be great. So Natalie, let's start with you.
So I'm Natalie Murray. I'm one of the apprenticeship directors at Consalia, and I deliver on our Level 6 apprenticeship programme and support on the Level 7 through the programme, specifically helping them get ready for their final assessment.
Perfect, thank you. And Hilary?
So Hilary Watkinson, I'm Programme Director with Consalia, and I tutor on our Level 6 as well as our Level 7 and obviously our ILM Level 5 coaching programme.
Brilliant. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Louise Sutton, and I'm the Academy Director here at Consalia. I know lots of our podcasts are usually with Phil and Will, so you're seeing the other side of the organisation, or hearing the other side of the organisation today. But as Academy Director, within the Academy, we're responsible for delivering all the accredited programmes. So we have our Level 6 and Level 7 apprenticeships. We have an Exec Masters programme for sales leaders. And we have our ILM Level 5 coaching programme, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
And actually, we also get pulled into delivering on our consulting programmes as well.
Oh, we do?
So we have many strings to our bow.
Yeah, jack of all trades, but hopefully masters of many as well. Okay, so let's start. So let's talk coaching. And maybe that's the place to start. Natalie, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, well, thinking about this, we know that there are a lot of misconceptions about coaching and what it really is. So I thought we could just start, Hilary, by hearing from you.
Yeah.
Can you just clarify for us what we mean by coaching, specifically in business and specifically as business sales?
Interesting question, because a lot of people come on the programme and they're senior sales leaders, senior sales managers, and they think they're coaching their team. And we'll go around at the beginning of the programme and ask them what they do and how big their teams are and how regularly they coach. And some of them will say, I coach the team every day. And I think what they realise, we ask them to mark themselves on what we call the stairway of competence, which begins with unconscious incompetence, all the way up the level to unconscious competence when you're doing something so well you don't even realise you're doing it. And they often think they're doing a pretty good job of coaching, but what happens as the days progresses, they realise that they are telling or giving advice. And often, as a senior salesperson, you've been promoted because you're good at your job. So, of course, what you want to do with your team is to tell them what to do. So that's generally what they are doing. They might be mentoring, as in giving advice, or they might actually be telling or training, but they're not actually always coaching. So there's quite a light bulb for a lot of them when they realise that coaching is different and perhaps a different style of management to what they've perhaps adopted in the past. Now, in sales, you can't always coach. We know that. There's times and pressures where you do have to tell. But actually, the journey of learning to be a coach as a manager is what we see them go through for the process when they take part in one of our programs. And that's where they realise that actually coaching is not what they thought it was.
Yeah. Louise, anything to add?
Yeah, so I think, I'm just thinking then, we do all of that in 2 days, actually. I know they go away and put it all into practice for their portfolio, but it is an incredible 2-day shift in mindset, isn't it, for many of them. But I think, we obviously, there are a lot of coaching definitions out there, but I think one that I think is always really impactful is the Jenny Rogers quote when she talks about coaching is about facilitating the learning, and that's what your role is as a coach. It's not to tell them what to do, it's to facilitate their learning on what they should be aiming to achieve. Raising self-awareness, so perhaps bringing in different perceptions, and coming up with choices, because as adults, they want to be able to choose the right way. So I think, it's really helping them understand all of that, isn't it, through those sessions. But I do think it is really interesting how so many people come with a different idea of what coaching is and how they think they may be coaching already. And we find that all the time on, I think, every cohort we have that. But I just wondered, Natalie, you've completed the programme, the ILM programme last year. How did you find putting that learning into practice? What was your biggest learning, actually?
Yeah, so first of all, I loved the programme, and it was great to have the opportunity to do a bit of work-based learning myself after having talked to our students so much about that over the past couple of years. And I guess putting the learnings into practice was easy in one sense because I had to do it. You have to do 18 hours of coaching, as you know, on the programme before you get your qualification. So it was easy from that perspective. But it actually quite daunting, quite nerve-wracking, I guess, when I was preparing for those conversations, because you want it to be really valuable to your coachee. But at the same time, you don't know what you're going to get from them. You don't know what conversations you're going to have to guide and the directions you're going to have to go in. So, I mean, there's lots of great support from my tutors in preparing for those conversations, in helping them be as effective, in the execution as you could prepare for. But I think it was nerve-wracking, but I quickly saw that actually anybody can coach to some degree. If you go in with that coaching mindset, start there and absorb everything that you're being taught, then everyone can do it to some degree. And I think my biggest learning, and you've already touched on this, is that my advice probably not as good as I thought that it was. Even when it's coming from a good place, you're wanting to help people solve, getting them to come to the conclusions, the solutions themselves.
Rather than giving the advice.
Yeah, and the not telling, the listening, the good questions, more good questions. Things we talk to our students about a lot anyway, but really practicing that, easier said than done sometimes.
What about you when you were learning to coach, Louise? What was your kind of biggest light bulb moment, if there was one?
Oh, there were many. I think, so I came from a consulting background, so, I was used to telling people what to do as a consultant. This is what you should be doing, you should try doing this. So not giving that advice was so hard. And, I literally had to sit on my hands sometimes. And that was the way to remind myself not to tell. I just needed a sign or something to tell me. So that was definitely a huge learning. And I think as well, linked to that, the power of silence, putting those really impactful pauses into conversations, giving the coachee time to think about what they've said or time to think about, did they really mean what they said? And just thinking time. And people find that really awkward. They find silence really awkward, but it is just the most powerful approach, I think, in coaching. And I guess linked to that is the beauty of level 2 listening. So listening to understand and not just to respond. And I think so 3, they were the biggest ones when I was really learning how to coach, I think. Yeah. What about you, Hilary?
Yeah, I mean, all of those things. I think for me, one of the biggest light bulbs was expect the unexpected, because you go into a coaching session and you might have an idea of some of the questions you're going to ask your coachee, particularly if you're building on from an ongoing relationship, but suddenly one question can take you down, or can take the coachee down a completely different route. And it's the power of those questions and where they might take you. So for me, it's expect the unexpected. It's probably my biggest learning.
And I love that, actually, not knowing what's going to come out of a coaching conversation. I think it's part of the fun of coaching, isn't it?
So you say fun, I said nerve-wracking at the start. So I think that is, and maybe as you become more experienced then, there's a tipping point where you go.
As it becomes more natural, you get better at asking the questions and just getting into the moment of coaching. Yeah. Where are you doing most of your coaching, Natalie? How are you finding it?
So I'm loving it, consciously, putting it into practice where I can, and that's mostly in our workshops with our students. level 6 students, and then all the follow-up sessions that we have with them. And it's that really trying to help them help themselves take the most out of the learnings, helping them with their time management, with their improved performance. And our level 6 students, they come to us early in their careers. They've taken on an academic qualification alongside a day job, and it's a lot. So I think that it plays a big part in helping them manage the expectations of the programme. And it's really helped, I've noticed a lot with the relationships that I'm building with them, because they see that, I trust them, that they're going to be able to find the solution themselves. And I do feel that empowers them and to help part of their development.
It is part of their development, for sure. You're helping them become self-learners, independent learners, and they can carry those skills into the workplace too. So,
Definitely.
and we have the Consalia way of teaching, and we encourage all our tutors to coach. So the majority of our tutors are accredited coaches. And that Consalia way is really about delivering the workshops in that coaching style, as well as all your one-to-one conversations being in that coaching style. And I do think it's a really important way of remembering how adults learn is they need to work it out for themselves. So I think the Consalia way really supports that kind of learning process for apprentices and for the students.
Definitely.
So that's good. One of the things we talk about on our programme is how do you prepare to coach?
And I think that's really important, particularly when you're a very busy sales manager, sales leader. And for me, that's about giving yourself some space before you go into a coaching session and getting in the moment, getting in the headspace, leaving your own beliefs, preconceptions at the door, and truly focusing on that person. Leave your phone, leave your notebook, and you've got to be 100% present in the moment, I think, to be properly coaching.
For sure. And I know some people have fed back, afterwards, that they've realised that it's making time to empty the head from the last meeting before they can go into that coaching session. Like you said, giving them space to shift from being either selling or leading to coaching. Very different mindset needed, and how to clear your mind and really help yourself prepare to give them 100%. Because it's all about the coachee, isn't it? It's not about you bringing your problems into the world, and it's about what does the coachee
that's a real
want.
challenge when you're a busy manager. It's really being disciplined about that, I think, to be a good coach.
And what do you enjoy most about it, Hilary?
Oh gosh, so many things. But I think the biggest thing for me is coaching is a life skill. And if you can teach people how to coach, and once they know how to master the art of truly listening, and then asking those magic, powerful questions, it's such a transferable skill into so many other situations. If you've got children or teenagers, or even with partners or other friends, it's transferable to every single role and every single life situation. I just think that's fantastic. Giving them that skill for me is so rewarding.
I'm just smiling, thinking nearly every single role, because I know when I was learning how to coach, my teenagers were like, "Do not coach me."
That is true.
From that.
And actually, I had a manager that all he ever did was ask me questions, which at times was really infuriating.
The balance.
But,
And you, Louise, what do you enjoy most?
What do I enjoy most about coaching? I love the fact that you can make a difference to the way that someone is thinking. If they come into the room with a challenge or an issue, and you can help them feel differently as they leave the room, I think that is just so rewarding. I love, in terms of teaching people how to coach, through the workshops, just helping them appreciate that there is another way of communicating, that it doesn't have to be tell the whole time. And that, yes, it might take a bit longer to begin with for the person to appreciate, the coachee to appreciate the best way forward. Ultimately, that's the most sustainable way, because they'll become more independent and more confident. And I just think, helping people to appreciate it's that way of leading and communicating is fantastic. And of course, I think for the people on our workshops, it all happens at different times. Some get it in the first day, the second day. Some might only as they're doing their 18 hours of coaching to say really begin to appreciate the benefits. But I was holding a supervision session the other day, and one of the coaches said to me how it has totally changed the way they are communicating with their team, and how they're managing the team. But also that, as Hilary said, they've got young children, not teenagers, but also how it's helped them change how they're parenting. Again, talking to their younger children. So I love, as you say, that you can apply this skill in so many places and at so many times.
You're kind of teaching people to be curious, aren't you? To ask questions, and that's such a lovely skill to have. And having a conversation with anyone you don't know, we all like to be asked about ourselves, about our lives. So if you have that natural curiosity, that really lends you to being a good coach actually as well.
Do you know, and so many people say that when they've been coached in the sessions that we're running, how fantastic it is to be really listened to, that they haven't felt that good about being listened to for so long, because it's that deeper listening that comes in, because we rush around so much if we're not making the time to do that coaching.
So it's also coaching's one of the modules on our level 7 senior sales leader apprenticeship. And I know when I'm working with those apprentices in the progress reviews or the catch-ups we have with them, more often than not, it comes out as their favourite module, because they can see what you've been talking about, that impact and immediate benefit they get from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
And I think the other thing that we teach them is that if you are a manager who can develop that coaching style, it's going to empower your team. They're going to feel more trusted, but equally it's going to give you more time, because you're not trying to fix everything for them, answer all their questions for them. You have more time to become more strategic and do some of the things you want to do as a manager.
Definitely.
So you're right. They really do come back and say, "Wow, already we can see what a difference that will make."
Yeah, and they go on then to have that as a focus one way or another, don't they? In their strategic business proposals, their master's dissertations often. So they do take that through.
And quite a few come onto the ILM programme after having completed that module.
And of course the ILM programme, we're going into a lot more details, a lot more hours in terms of our teaching, and we spent a lot of time recently, didn't we, developing tools for coaching that can go into a coaching session, have these kind of things up your sleeve. And I know we've probably all got favourite tools. Mine is the decision matrix, which I'm sure a lot of sales leaders will have come across, but if somebody's got a lot of options and they're trying to make a decision about something and they don't know where to turn, I help walk them through by using it's kind of a matrix situation where they will write down all the things they're trying to decide about, and then have a bank of criteria about things that are important to them. So let's say you're going for a new job, and you might have some options of a new job. What might be important to you? Might it be salary, or might it be work-life balance, or might it be future of progression? And I get them to give it a scale and then rate each of the options according to the scale. And it's kind of business tool, but I'm finding it really useful. But I know a lot of the tools that we talked to them about, particularly the last cohort of ILM students, they've all gone back and put them straight into practice already. I know you have a favourite, Natalie.
I do. The one that I've used probably the most with all of my coachees is the postcard from the future, where you get your coachee to think about a time, let's say 5 years in the future, and they write to themselves saying what they're doing, why they love it, and the steps it took to get them there. And it's just a really nice way to make them feel that ideal is tangible and within their grasp. And there was actually one coachee that it really resonated with him, and actually after those sessions, and largely based, not just on that, but largely based around that tool, he actually left his career and has gone off into this other direction, which is really his passion and what he sees as his vocation. And he actually messaged me a couple of weeks ago to say that with each step and each opportunity that he's exploring now on this new route, it brings him back to that tool and to the discussions we had around it, which is lovely to hear that it's been so impactful. So that would
How does that
definitely
make you feel to think you've had that influence? It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
And it's just, I guess it makes you realise that the value you can bring and that impact, as we've said, that you can have on other people's lives. I think it's quite a responsibility, actually, in some ways. But
their choice, though.
Their choice.
It's always their choice.
Yeah, definitely.
But, So I think, we have a lot of good tools and frameworks that we introduce. But I think my go-to, perhaps it came out of my very first coaching programme myself, my accreditation, is the performance equation, which comes from Timothy Galway in The Inner Game of Tennis. And so that's that performance is your potential minus interference. And so then you can coach around what could those interferences be that are impacting you from performing or delivering to your optimum. And, it could be, it could be anything that's outside of work as well as inside of work. But it could be, you think about mind, body and spirit. So there's all sorts of things. It could be distress. It could be their health. As I say, just are they working aligned to their values and their beliefs and or is the organisation aligned to their values and beliefs? So there's so many things that you can unpick just through this very simple equation. Is it stress from a particular deal? Is it team member? There's so much that can come out of just, well, what could the interferences be? Let's talk about them. What's the first one that you can think of? And then what's the next one? And of course, there's always that magic what else question. So what else is interfering? So, but I think it's very powerful. It's very simple. Yeah. People understand it quite easily. So I quite often bring that one in. Or what's just interfering with you today, you can focus on in the moment. And is there something that interferes over the longer term? So you can really approach it from different ways. So,
Yeah.
So that's
interesting.
Good.
Yeah.
So Timothy Galway, In a Game of Tennis.
Yes,
that's one of my
book.
Recommended books. But what about you? Do you have a favourite book?
I do, yes. I was thinking about there are lots out there, and you mentioned Jenny Rogers right at the start. Invaluable on the programme. All of it. Could have put a lot of that in my assignments. But for me, I think the other one that really stayed with me and that I've gone back to the most is Michael Bungay-Stanier's The Coaching Habit. Just because it's so simple. And he focuses on those 7 questions that you could put into any daily conversation. And you've just referred to a couple of them, or the interference idea. So for him, that first one is, what's on your mind? And it seems very simple, but just a great way to start getting your coachee to open up to you. And then obviously the all question as well, and what else? So him, I would say, and again, he's about the curiosity and the not telling.
But he almost dumbs it down, doesn't he? Because he says you're a lazy coach. The lazy coach is going to say, and more tells. And more tells. And more tells. But it's so true when you put that in practice.
And just
that
getting,
really
you can
does
see
work.
them thinking, digging deeper, can't you, to answer the question. And he has a great podcast as well. The 2 pages with MBS is a good one.
And mine, you've already mentioned mine. It builds a little bit on that. You can see them thinking. That is time to think. And the whole time to think, and I think Nancy says, listening to ignite the human mind, Nancy Klein. I love that. And you can, as you watch that power of silence, you can literally see the cogs turning, can't you? And I think from salespeople, you mentioned this earlier, Louise, we love to talk, we love to fill the gaps. To actually learn to step back and give that silence and that power of silence to someone. I thought that was a fantastic book. That was a real... life-changing almost moment for me, actually. Really, really great. Great author.
She's really impactful. So I have one that I recommend to people that are coming on the programme, which is a lovely thin book, because I think it's not too overwhelming. So I always say, which is The Tower of Coaching by Max Landsberg. I lent it to Eddie, actually, when about 2 years ago, and he's still, every time I ask him for it, he's like, oh, it's still at home, I read it, and I'm like, come on, give me my book back. But anyway, so he's obviously enjoying it too, but it's just really practical, and as I say, it's not overwhelming, and it's full of tips and techniques, and I think it's just, you know, a really good go-to guide when, as you say at the beginning, you want a few questions, you want a few ideas, what can you do, how can you approach coaching? And so that's one that I really recommend as well, which is good. But also, I guess, the inner game of tennis, which I mentioned. And I think what I love about that too is that within that he talks about how you don't have to be an expert in something to be able to coach. And I think that's always a good conversation, is it, in our workshops, when people think that you must know the subject to be able to coach about it, or know the context, or know, you know, the particular technology that maybe someone's concerned about. And you don't. No. By asking those simple questions, you can coach and open up new thinking without being an expert. And that comes through really clearly in... well, they've got the inner game of tennis and the inner game of golf and the inner game of football, I think, but you don't have to be an expert, and I think that's something really important too.
Well, you're less likely to tell if you don't know what you're, if you're an expert in that field.
Absolutely.
I guess that makes it easier in some ways.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
So one thing we haven't talked about yet is coaching supervision.
Okay.
I know you're doing lots of coaching supervision at the moment, Louise, with our ILM students, and obviously not just important for our students, but also for ourselves as continued professional development as coaches. Obviously, supervision is really important.
Yeah. So that CPD is important for coaches and for the coachees all the way through. And supervision is really needed. You know, you've talked about when I said I enjoy sometimes what's unknown, or what's going to come out of the coaching session and not knowing. And you said that could be nerve-wracking at the beginning. And I think as a supervisor, you're there to support the coachee and to help them really think about how is their coaching going, and if they have any conversations that they want to just, you know, get some insight into. So it's really there to support, to challenge them a little bit if they're just using the same model all the time or the same techniques, to encourage them to use something different, or to think about how they're approaching the conversations. You know, if they share that they're talking too much and still giving advice, you know, you can talk about how you can try and help them with that and coach them through that. So yeah, it's really important, and it's an opportunity to I think to support them, and it's really about giving them a different perspective. So the concept or the idea of coaching supervision is that you can help them look at that session with a different lens. So you might look at it from the lens of, well, the coachee, how do you think they felt about it? How do you think they felt about that question? And then also thinking about it in terms of the whole process. So there are a number of models. There's a seven-eyed supervision model, and there's a 5 lenses conversation model for supervision, but it's all about looking at things from a different perspective. And I think it's really important as someone's learning how to be a coach that they do that, that they're just not seeing it as a two-way thing, that there are going to be different elements that impact it. So yeah, coaching's super important as you're learning, but even as a coach, you know, we can get into a habitual way of coaching, and we need to be constantly...
Absolutely, and we're always learning, as we say in coaching, we're always learning. Every session is something we learn about, or something we might find we need to do differently, or we did do differently and it made a difference.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. So I think, is there anything else that we should be really mentioning?
I think one thing for me is people often say they don't have time to coach. And one thing we talk to people about is this sort of idea of corridor coaching or coaching in the moment. And that is very much, even if you only have 5 minutes, you are still able to have that coaching dialogue, that rather than telling somebody what they should be doing, unless it's kind of urgent or an emergency situation. But, you know, somebody comes to you with a problem and says, what would you do? Or can you help me? You can still have that coaching conversation with them. Yeah. What's the situation? What are you doing about it? Okay, what are your options? What are you going to do now? That can take 5 minutes. You don't need an hour or a half an hour rigid coaching session. You can coach on the spot when you come out of a meeting, when you walk into the car. You know, how do you think that went? What could we have done differently? It's all that phrasing and different way of thinking as a manager that I don't think we've kind of touched on, and that often people realise by the end of their coaching hours that actually they're already doing that in their day-to-day lives, and some of their teams are saying, well, you're not actually helping me anymore, or actually you're not telling me anymore because I'm working it out for myself. And I think that's a key message for me. And I think one other thing for me, I was, I'm really passionate about the Lionesses and was so happy to see how successful they are and the way they talk about themselves as a team. But of course, their coach, Serena Riegman, she's got a book out at the moment actually, and if you read about her, she talks all about believing in yourself, not being afraid to make mistakes, because that's how you learn. But actually, she's wanting her team to become the best version of themselves, and I think that's what we're doing in coaching. We want people to believe in themselves, believe they have the answers, and be their best version of themselves they can be. So I really liked.
Well, on that sporting theme, I was listening to something yesterday on the radio. I think it's Radio 5 Live, and obviously the new football season's starting. New managers are coming in. But one of them was talking about a new manager at one of the Premier League clubs. I think it was Spurs, but saying what's so important is that the team come wanting to be coached by that person, that relationship that they have with the coach is so critical. And I think that comes down to what we were saying earlier about listening and really getting to know somebody by that level 2 listening. You build that relationship, and if they feel that they can come to you as a manager and talk to you about what's on their mind, those things which are interfering with their potential, that's what's so important.
And there's an element of care as well as a coach. I think caring about the outcome for your coachee, and that's another thing they say about Serena, that she's been described as somebody who cares deeply about her team. And I think if you care deeply about the people you're trying to help coach, you're wanting them to get the very best for themselves. Makes you a good coach.
And I think the more you coach, the more you create a coaching culture. And that's, I think, again, what the Lionesses have. They really support one another the whole time. So really, good. Great. Okay, so we've loved, I've enjoyed this quick chat about coaching. Hope you have. It's just nice to chat away, actually, isn't it, about what we think. And I hope everybody listening's enjoyed listening to us. And, as we've reflected on why coaching is such a critical skill for a leader. We've mentioned our programs in the session. We are running an ILM Level 5 program, which will start in November. So if any of you are really interested to know more about that, please contact us on consalia.com or look at our website. And we'd love to talk to you more about what we do in all of our coaching approaches. So, that would be great. But I think we should finish with a question. I think, we're coaches. Let's finish with a question. And a question for all of you listening as well, which I think is, which conversation from this week, or maybe last week because we're early in the week, but which conversation recently would have gone differently if you'd used a coaching model or a coaching question to progress that conversation? So I think that's really important to think about. What could you have done differently recently with a coaching conversation?
Good question.
Yeah. So let's leave it at that, shall we? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks, Hilary.
Thank you.
Both.
Okay.